if you look at what I did with Stone Cold, you look at Stone Cold in my interviews, they were pretty intense interviews. I mean, it seems to me that it came across pretty strong that we hated each other's guts, which is totally not true. We got along brilliantly. We were great friends. We were great workers that way. We worked a lot of heat between ourselves that was all pretend. And it should have been the same thing with Shawn. When you look at two baby faces and what we were really like this, how you look at it, like how do you make fans like you guys believe that maybe this is real and that this is a real feud here? And I think the fact of the matter is that Shawn and me, it was an understanding well into before we even worked the Iron Man match that we were going to come back and this is the way it was going to go. I walked out of the ring, we didn't shake hands. I was going to be the baby face with a chip on his shoulder and I was going to start attacking his characters. I think that I maybe made mistakes in the sense that sometimes I went over the line, but I think I was going over the line sometimes in the effort to do really good business with him. And the sad thing about all that is that we could have done such business. We could have worked. I mean, people thought the heat was real. And all we had to do was get a handle on how to measure that, making sure that we didn't cross over where you're saying stuff about Sonny and you're not saying stuff. I'm not saying stuff about Shawn in a way where it's hurting his feelings for real. And I think there was a lot of times that I did hurt Shawn's feelings for real. But I can say this in defense of myself that I would always say to Shawn, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to talk about you posing for Playgirl. I'm going to really rag on you about it. And is that okay? And he's like, cool, that's cool. Go ahead and do whatever you want. And I think Shawn was cool with it. But as soon as I walked out of the curtain and I'm in the ring and I started doing it, I had such a way of being so real, so credible. It was like, ooh, you really zinged them. And it's like, people are just, that's going to piss them off. And I'm only working. And I think Shawn would watch my interviews and I think he would get really, it would be so serious that he would mark out like a wrestling fan and go, oh, that does hurt my feelings. Now I am mad. And I think it just needed to have a better dialogue between us. And I don't take, I understand that maybe I pushed a lot of buttons on Shawn that way. It was never my intention to get things so agitated that we couldn't do business together. My whole idea was to do really big business together for maybe years together. It'd be I can remember telling Shawn all the time through that whole year. People, even the guys in the dressing room, think we really hate each other. But I was only working. I was always talking about Shawn Michaels, who doesn't exist. He's a figment. Michael Hickenbottom, that's a different thing. I wasn't going to say anything bad about him, other than talk about him. I'm talking about Shawn Michaels. I'm talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm not talking about Steve Williams. I'm not talking about Terry Bollea. But when you're talking about Bret Hart, it's a little different. You're talking about Kurt Angle, you're talking about Kurt Hennig. We're real people, with our real names. We have, it's a little different when you're a character. And you have to differentiate between the two. And especially if you've got a gimmick name, I want to call Stone Cold Steve Austin, a ruthless hyena. It's not really, I'm not talking about Steve Williams, And I think you have to measure it that way. And it's a shame that Shawn couldn't understand that it was all, we all would have done big business if we could have. We ended up working a shoot instead of shooting a work.
What are your feelings on Shawn using your name on TV to get himself over?
I didn't really like it. I find that.
And did you know they were going to do that with the music a couple weeks back?
No, I didn't know anything, and I tried not to. I think I'd rather not be included into what they're doing that way. I don't want to be part of it. My feeling is that I'm sensitive enough about all that stuff still that I don't like anyone to make it a story. It's all part of a storyline. It's all part of, that's what it is. It was bullshit what they did. It was bullshit what happened. A lot of things that happened from that I wish we could change. I wish it never happened. And I don't like to ever make light of it. And I don't like anyone to ever think that I'm part of a storyline in relation to what happened at Survivor. So it'd be easy for me to still walk out on Raw next week and be the new, the commissioner or something and have a big feud with McMahon or maybe a spike pile drive Lennon McMahon on the freeway or something. there's lots of ways to work it as a storyline. But
Right.
to me, it's a very sensitive thing. I wish that I had never had that happen. I wish that, there's so many things would be different. I would never have left that company. I would have stayed there. I would have been there when Owen's accident happened. I think my belief is always that I would have prevented it. I think I would have slashed that to pieces pretty quick and said, why would you risk your life for something so stupid, I would have never had the concussion injuries from Goldberg, which means I would have never had a stroke. There's so many things that all connect to that fork in the road that to me, it was never a laughing matter. It was always a very tough, emotional thing that I battled through. I knew the day I left that I was never going to find happiness in the WCW. That they were never going to do right by me as far as imagination and creativity and stuff like that. I never knew that I'd get hurt there. I never knew that it would be as bad as awful as it was. But they paid me well, and unfortunately, I got hurt. I didn't collect as much of that big gravy as I wanted to. But I mean, it was not the happy ending for me. That's for sure.
I guess going back to some psychology, because I do want to touch on some of the stuff you talked about later on if we have time. But talk about the start of and end of a good wrestling story. In your opinion, what makes a good wrestling story?
Just if you can convince them to somebody that is real.
Okay.
Anytime you can make them believe it's real, you've done right.
Well, how would you go ahead and book a successful feud from start to finish in today's era?
It's so hard to answer because you don't know. It's different characters and different things. I think, you can build it up to certain finishing moves, like whatever somebody's move is, to somebody finally countering it, beating it, or getting around it, or, when you kick out of somebody's finish, little things. Again, I think the key sometimes is to if they expect something, you want to give them something else. Never let them know what you're going to do. If people know you're going to throw the guy in the turnbuckle and you're going to give you a backdrop, change it. Take a turnbuckle and take a clothesline. I don't know, you just have to change it. Reverse him into the turnbuckle instead. It's just logic like that. I mean, those aren't very good examples, but anytime the fans can predict what's going to happen,
give them a swerve.
Just throw a swerve, throw a left when they think there's going to be a right, and when they think there's going to be a right, throw a left.
When you had your championship wrestling matches, did you go into working those matches any differently than a regular match?
Not really. Yeah, not really. I think I always, a lot of times I looked at everything as from a artistic and a professional standpoint. If I knew somebody was a good worker, someone like Pierre Lafitte, or someone like Hogman, if you remember the Goblins, they were good workers. They weren't necessarily over as super heels or anything like that. But it's like, I want to give them a good match. I wanted to have somebody say, hey, take notice of this guy. He's actually pretty good. And needs a little more, he's maybe never going to be the top heel, but he's somebody that's solid and convincing. I can give him a really good match. I didn't look at somebody and go, the fans don't think he's a great heel, so I'm going to give him only 40% of what he needs to get him over. I would always look at it. Sometimes I found it a challenge to take the lesser promising guys, if especially they were good and just for whatever reasons hadn't cracked it yet, to just try to elevate them a little higher, give them a little more a positive look.
What is the key to the placement of the sharpshooter, and why do you think it got so over?
Well, the only reason it got over was because they made it get over, and that's Vince McMahon and the WWF got it over. I mean, I can remember when they asked me to use the sharpshooter, I can remember saying, holds don't get over anymore. It's, maybe a finishing move, a guillotine or a death neck breaker or something, but holds weren't really, at that time, weren't the kind of thing that would get over. And I can remember Pat Patterson said to me, he said, don't worry, we'll get the hold over. And that's the truth. They did get it over, and it took a little while. Not very long, but it took a few months.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.